In this episode, we're going to be talking about what is neutron radiation,
why neutron radiation is unique and dangerous,
and activation versus contamination.
and a little hypothetical case study to highlight why it's important.
Stay tuned.
Dig deep into that vault of yours, Bob, and try to pull out from the 80s the Cobra Kai motto.
It was strike hard, strike fast, no mercy.
That sounds a lot like the Viper that 908 has just dropped.
Right, but instead of round kicking kids in the face, it hits unknowns with FTIR and Raman.
And it uses smart spectral processing, so it's kind of like sweeping the leg while reading the compound.
Right, and it doesn't even have to read have a black key or yell at teenagers.
But it's still really badass. It's like having Mr. Miyagi right in your corner.
Go check out this new champ at 908devices.com and have no mercy for your mystery chemicals.
I wish all runs gave us no mercy, but you know what really stresses me out about most hazmat calls?
The part where everybody stands around saying, smells like...
Yeah, exactly. Yes, the guessing, right? It's guessing, not tactics.
That's why Teledyne FLIR Defense built a detection tool so we can stop doing that. Real sensors for real CBRNE threats.
They've been doing it for over 30 years. They've been helping first responders know what they're actually dealing with.
Right, so hazmat, homeland security, public safety, ugly scenes, clear answers.
It's pretty straightforward, right? The more you know, the smarter you can operate.
Check out Teledyne FLIR Defense, any threat, anywhere, without the mystery.
And we promised that we would look into a solution for the battery fires, and many companies have presented their products in front of us, but there is one noteworthy one because we actually found that it extinguished lithium-ion battery fires. It works on all classes of fire, so it's not a one-trick pony. It prevents the fire from spreading, which I've seen firsthand is really, really cool. And the lithium-ion batteries, it prevents them from reigniting.
And before that keyboard warrior starts caps locking, asking for proof, the links are in the show notes for UL Class A and B, as well as BSI, 10 categories, including lithium-ion batteries.
And it's no joke. We were impressed with the results when we put it through our own field tests. We suggest that you do your own myth busting. This product is available in a variety of options, so it's going to be able to integrate into whatever your current process is. You can access them by checking out Fire Suppression Solutions or clicking on the show notes.
Yes.
Hey.
Well, if anybody was a savvy watcher on that one, they noticed me updating the title during the reads.
Oh, I didn't even catch that the title was where it is. That's very funny.
Well, that's all right. That's, you know what? It's the little things that if you watch the show, and there's more coming with that, that you'll see more as we go. So good stuff.
Yeah, we're trying whole new processes and, trying to be more visual, right? Apparently people want to see our ugly faces as we talk about this stuff. So here we are.
Yeah. So, lots of stuff. We moved all of that chit-chatting in the beginning over to the side, but there is one thing that I have to do chit-chat, is that we are currently in the middle of the second giveaway of the Obexian FR sweepstakes, I guess it would be. So if you are not in, submit your thing through the form on the website, check the newsletter and all that stuff. And we are going to be announcing that this week is Brandon Farmer from Chesterfield Fire and EMS. They will be reaching out to you, I believe, probably as we record this, because I let them know this morning that you won. So nice job, man.
And what did they win?
They got some jug. I think there's like a huge check from like Publishers Clearinghouse kind of thing.
The guy shows up with the balloons on your porch.
Yeah, Ed McMahon shows up. He's still dead, but it's all right. So it's a whole package. It's a whole kit that you get to check out and try it out and use, and so it's free. So
all right,
good stuff.
And when's the next drawing?
Next week. Unfortunately, we're not going to announce it on the show. Just check the social media. It won't be on the show, but it will be on social media.
All right, very cool. So we wanted today to dive a little in. I hate that word dive a little in. Like, I feel like that's so overused now. But we do. We want to dive into neutron radiation. It's one of these things, for as much as radiation is barely touched on in the hazmat world, and it really is. Like, if you're a radiation guy, you have to admit that as technicians and first responders, we really glaze over radiation. Neutron radiation is glazed over even less. So we wanted to kind of chat about it because there's some crazy stuff, right? Like, how are we making it? What is it doing to us? None of these things are really properly talked about in a classroom setting or in radiation classes. So let's dive a little into the neutron radiation, which consists of uncharged particles that are being released from the nucleus, totally different than all the other radiation that we tend to deal with.
Yes. Neutron's different because it has no charge, right? They interact with things a little bit differently than your alpha, which is your heavyweight guy, your beta, which is markedly lighter, and then your gamma. It works differently.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like a shit stir. Like, if you want to think about it in terms like that, right? It doesn't directly cause any kind of ionizing radiation. So it's not knocking electrons off. What it is, it's causing indirect radiation. And this is causing damage primarily through what's known as secondary interactions, which we're going to get into.
Okay. So let's talk about why they are unique and at the same time dangerous. They are able to, because of just how they're made up, deeply penetrate into materials, and us being one material, the human body.
Now, alpha particles don't go deep. Beta particles don't go deep, but that's because they are charged particles. Since neutrons are electrically neutral, they have the ability to pass through our DNA, our atoms, without much interference because of their electron neutrality. Alpha particles are positively charged, so they're going to veer towards negatively charged things, and beta particles are negatively charged, so they're going to veer towards positively charged things.
Right. It's almost like, what is it, IMS, where it pulls to one plate versus the other plate. It's like moving a boat to the left, to the right, because neutrons are not repelled or attracted to anything. They're smooth sailing right through. They don't lose energy easily either through those electromagnetic interactions.
Right. Now you did chemistry, so you know what I'm talking about when I say the orbital clouds, right? You think of the pretty flowers that different orbital combinations can make. When a regular charged particle moves through that, it is interacting with that field, either in a repulsive way or an attractive way. But neutrons, since they're electrically neutral, they can pass through that electrical cloud with almost zero resistance. So they just kind of keep going. And this gives neutrons a huge penetrating advantage.
Now, don't despair. Neutrons can lose energy, and they can do this primarily by direct collisions with, nuclei, which is incredibly hard. There was an analogy I heard way back. It was like if a football dome is the electron cloud, a pea on the 50-yard line is the nucleus. So you can imagine not only hitting that atomic nuclei, but do it from that stadium's in New York, hit it from LA. Right? It's insane.
I've heard similar ones. The analogy that I always heard was if the electron cloud was the 16th chapel, the nucleus would be a grain of salt on the floor.
Oh, it's big. So these collisions, as you can imagine, are infrequent compared to the charged particle interactions.
Right, versus those charged particles, which tend to lose things very quickly in dense materials. Neutrons can travel a long way before any of that random interaction ends up happening.
Which means that neutrons will travel further per interaction and deposit energy deeper inside materials and tissue.
Now, that becomes really important when we start looking at this secondary means by which the neutrons can harm us, right? They activate material. They turn otherwise non-radioactive objects into secondary sources of radiation. So when a neutron penetrates material, it passes through, right? It can pass through metal, concrete, soil, the human body, they're not stopped at the surface, so they end up creating radioactive material inside of us.
Now, once the neutron is in contact with that nucleus, it is pretty much absorbed by that atom in the material, right? So this increases the atom's mass number. So, for example, if I have a stable, let's say, iron nucleus, and then I jam a neutron into it, I now have a radioactive iron isotope. And we've said this before, radioactive in the simplest single sentence format is a mismatch between protons and neutrons. If you have that, you have radioactivity.
Now, imagine you're in the firehouse, right? And you take some lithium and you hand it over to the guy that never has any kind of mental issues. He's going to become unstable, right? And we can think about that just like we think about neutrons coming into the atom, creating a new isotope. This new isotope is unstable, and it is going to seek stability once again. And in that process, it's going to release gamma radiation, beta particles, possibly alpha, or both gamma and radiation at this gamma and beta at the same time.
And this radiation continues after the neutron source is gone. The activated materials then emit radiation independently, like their own little hot zones or whatever. So the duration depends on the half-life of the activated isotope now.
All right, so some common materials that can become activated in the field. Now, these are important for us, right? Metal. We often use metal in what we're dealing with, our steel tools, our SCBA cylinders, vehicle frames, weapons, radios, hand tools.
Yes, so good stuff. More about this in a second, but first, today's episode is brought to you by Rigaku Analytical Devices, who are the folks who have been perfecting that 1064 nanometer Raman. Depends on how you say that. The longer you have been doing, some of you in hazmat.
They just launched their 4th generation handheld analyzer, the Icon X, and is built specifically for the real world stuff with hazmat teams dealing with real world everyday issues. So we're talking about like dirty powders, mixed mixtures. Oh, that's kind of repetitive, mixed mixtures. Anyway, dyes, colors, all the things that generally send our instruments into full blown temper tantrums.
Yeah, that 1064 nanometer laser means that we have reduced fluorescence, so you get fast, reliable chemical ID in under a minute instead of staring at that blank screen when what went wrong.
And this is an entirely new platform. This isn't an upgrade. You can think of it like getting an entire new toolbox. It supports new accessories, standoff analytics. You're getting answers without having to get too close.
Now, if you want an analyzer that's been evolving right alongside Hazmat World, the Hazmat World, not Hazmat World, check out Rigaku's newest Raman at rigakuanalytical.com and take a look around you. How many lithium-ion batteries do you have around you right now?
I have 7. 7 at my desk.
Batteries are everywhere, and almost every department in the nation is starting to deal with them on a regular basis.
Which is we're excited to tell you about a new product that's proven to limit and control battery fire propagation. It's from a brand called Tegeo, and they are chock full of hazmat experts who know that there's a better way for us, the first responder, to handle, store, and ship these at-risk lithium-ion batteries.
Yep, this product will solve your lithium-ion bottom problems. It's lightweight. It works across all battery types, and we can say it lives up to the hype because we've tested it firsthand, and we're giving it away on a sweepstakes.
Yes, we are. It's called Obexian FR, and it's part of a 2-part system with scientifically designed granulars along with a UN-certified paler drum. More importantly, Obexian FR is proven to reduce the toxic IDLH gases emitted when these things kick off, so it's going to keep you and your team safe.
So to learn more, go to thehazmatguys.dgeo.com. That's thehazmatguys.dgeo.com. Now, let's go into some of the more common types neutron reactions. Let's say we have iron and we get jammed up with one. Now we have iron 59, which is a gamma emitter. Or we got aluminum, and then we have aluminum 28, which is now a gamma emitter. Or we can have sodium, which is now sodium 24, which is a strong gamma emitter.
So it's not just metals, right? You can have concrete, soil, asphalt, anything can be struck by neutron radiation and turn radioactive. So, if you look at soil, you're talking about the sodium that's in the soil, the silicones, calcium in concrete. All these things are really easily activated. So, you look at like a neutron density gauge, the soil near the neutron source may have elevated readings once all is said and done.
And the question now comes is like, what happens with water and moisture and that stuff? Water and moisture are great, or more to the point, high hydrogen sources are great shielding. And coincidentally, hydrogen doesn't activate. But the problem is that these dissolved minerals that we did irradiate and become radioactive can be dissolved in the water, and that water now can be transporting activated particles short distances, maybe even longer distances.
So this then comes into a thought process with neutron. Well, like, okay, if it's able to come in and create its own isotopes that are then radioactive, how can you tell the difference between something that's been activated and something that is contaminated, right? So I go into a scene, I've got my halogen, I'm checking my halogen, all of a sudden my readings are through the roof. Oh, is it been activated or has it been contaminated? What's the difference? Well, if the radioactive material was present before the exposure, that is not an activation, that is a contamination.
Okay. If I go and I wash off that right? So I have something that's hot, I wash it off. Is it activated? No. It's more likely contaminated.
What if I was using something around a neutron source and neutrons are directly involved and it wasn't giving me readings before and now it is? Remember, neutrons themselves do not, set off our detectors, but all of a sudden I'm getting higher readings on something that was around neutrons, then yes, that was an activation. It is not contaminated.
Okay, let's say I get something that's hot and I wash it and it continues emitting radiation. Then could it be activated? Yes. Could it be contaminated? Yes, because I washed off some of those parts as well. So that's possible.
Now, the half-life of these isotopes that they turn into, they are going to have to go through their process. So if I am wiping things down and it's clean, I'm not getting anything off of it, then I may have to require that product to sit through its half-life, and that would be the byproduct of a activation versus contamination. Remember, you cannot decon activation away. Your only solution is wait for it to decay.
Now, this is a problem for first responders in a couple different ways. First off, our PPE and tools can become radiation sources. So if you think that you're going to leave the scene clean, that might not be a thing, right? You might have to do some later surveys and you may have some unexpected gamma readings. So we're going to want to store the gear in clear plastic, but we used to do double clear plastic bags. The reason for the double is we used to put the form in between the two, but a double layer of plastic is not a bad idea. And that actually may trigger some alarms.
Yeah, well, and then you think the plastic is very water or hydrogen filled, so that's going to help slow neutrons down, but you're dealing with gamma and beta after secondary activation, and once you have these things, whether it's your gear, even yourself, or your tools, you may be unknowingly carrying activated items. Things that you wouldn't even think are now activated could be activated, which is going to cause a prolonged contact with an increased dose. So because you don't realize, say, your SCBA bottle became activated, it's sitting on your back, you're walking around with it for an extra 20 minutes. That's an extra 20 minutes of being exposed to gamma radiation.
Now, this may be a little confusing, and it's definitely more depth than we're going to get into, at least in this episode, but maybe we can come back to another point, is that your gamma meter, very few people out there or departments or teams have neutron radiation detection because it's not statistically a common thing, but it is a thing. But your gamma meter may spike during that incident. And there is a reason. We'll come back to that maybe later on. But responders may think that contamination occurred because now they're reading something.
We actually had one of our first interviews, Bob. Do you remember?
I remember.
Yeah, was about a neutron source that they tried to cover, and their gamma readings went through the roof. So this stuff is not theoretical. This has actually happened to responders in the past. So, what kind of operational implications does that have? On scene, right? We can never assume that the hazard has ended once the source is secure. So basically we need to recheck everything, right? Because those activated materials, they're going to continue to emit radiation, and it leads to neutron scenes that are very dynamic.
Which brings me to limiting your time. Obviously, ALARA, time, distance, shielding, and all that stuff. If we can increase or reduce, the time there and distance, increase the distance, both primary neutron exposure and activation goes down. And this means that we should probably avoid staging equipment close to the source.
Yeah, which lends its own problems because a lot of departments don't have anything that's going to pick up neutron, so they can't even do that. Right, so they can't control the tools and the PPE post-incident because they don't even understand that they've been hit with neutron, that their equipment has been hit with neutron, and the only way they're going to pick it up is using surveying equipment before returning into service, which could really be a problem because if you don't know you have neutron source to begin with, you're not even going to think to break out your survey meters to test to see if anything has become activated. If it does, we're going to isolate the suspicious items, and this is absolutely one of those incidences where we're going to coordinate with radiation authorities to give us guidance.
Let's wrap up this episode with an example, right? Let's say that you got one of those old handy-dandy Troxler gauges, right, which is an industrial neutron gauge, right? It's involved. It's transported in the kids' Nissan Sentra, and we have a vehicle fire. Now the gauge is intact, but it's been exposed to high temperatures, and the responders work close during that suppression. And
later on, for whatever reason, while surveying the equipment, you're going to see increased radiation on your Halligan tool, SCBA cylinder, and turnout gear. However, when you do the normal decontamination procedures, you find out that no contamination actually occurred, and the radiation came from the neutron activation of the metal components and the non-metal components that it came in contact with during the run.